Today's guest is someone who genuinely sits at the center of where enterprise technology, vendor ecosystems, and real-world execution collide. Cheryl Wrang is a VP and Executive Director of Advanced Solutions at Ingram Micro, where she spent nearly 2 decades building, scaling, and leading some of the most critical technology solution portfolios in the industry. She's also my friend who I've known for a long time. She leads strategy and growth across advanced data center and software infrastructure, including powerhouse vendors like IBM, Red Hat, and Lenovo, and oversees teams of more than 100 people who are responsible for turning innovation into something customers actually can use. What makes Cheryl's story especially powerful is that she didn't parachute into leadership. She started at Ingram Micro as an intern at 19 years old and worked her way up through vendor management, advanced solutions, and executive leadership. She's also a nationally recognized industry leader, named CRN's 2025 Role Model of the Year, a passionate advocate for AI adoption, hyperscaler marketplaces like AWS and Microsoft, and a fierce mentor for the next generation, especially women coming up in the IT channel. Today we're talking AI, infrastructure, vendor ecosystems, data centers, and what it really takes to lead with empathy, confidence, and a little bit of edge. Cheryl, welcome to Tipsy Technologists. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you. What an introduction.
Yeah.
I'll bring you with me.
I know. Yeah. Well, thank you. We're gonna have fun today. We're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna have our drink. So what about that? So what's your drink of choice today?
Today, I love a fancy cocktail every once in a while, but on a day like today, just a long day, just a nice cold light beer.
I love it. Well, cheers. I got some wine here, so we're gonna.
There we go.
Cheers virtually. So let's start off. So what's one thing people think they know about you that's completely wrong?
I think for me, people, and I'm sure you get this a lot. They see a female in an executive role, and they think, well, she must know someone, or she got the role because she's a woman, or she's too young to have the right experiences. And what I think this day and age, and what's completely wrong, is we're here in these roles because we hustled. Comes with that, there are experiences, but in the age that we've also, I feel like we learn and we adapt really fast. And so there's this ability to gain a lot of experiences in a short amount of time, because we're willing, right? We're always willing to change. We're willing to try something different. And so I think it's that little bit of, you got there not without earning it. And I think the reality is that we work really hard, we earn it, and then we focus on bringing the next people up so they can keep coming up faster and faster.
I love that. That's very true. And in my world too, I mean, when I was starting off in the business, also being a second, second generation owner as well. And then being my parents' daughter, it was the same thing, where it was a lot of nepotism, and people were like, oh, she's just there because she's a boss's daughter. What does she have? What does she know? It was the same thing. I mean, and then you had to really, just like you said, fight and push and demonstrate capability. And then it's amazing how then people start to leave you alone and just give you some space.
Yeah.
So to grow, I encourage you to grow. Exactly.
Pleasure of meeting your parents. And I know that they would not have handed the reins over unless you were both deserving, ready, and enabling, to the next vision, and, the visionary, and having that culture creation and everything that you've done. So you're there because you earned it as well.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. So, all right. I know you already said on a day like today, beer is your choice. But if your leadership style was a drink, what would it be?
Ooh, I think I would stick with the light beer. I really would, because it's versatile. It's, it's simple. I don't try and overcomplicate things. I'm pretty direct. I'm pretty, I can see through things, and I have a way of just trying to be that glue that can bring a lot of different things together and a lot of visions together. And I think a beer does that. It's a bonding experience. You can play some games with it. You can set up a beer pong or flip cup, but the end of the day, it's about, there's some fun with it, but there's also, it's a hard working person's drink of choice. And, I love that blue collar style as well.
I love that. Do you think you bring the same personality to the table socially, because you were just talking about it, as you do professionally, or do you vary it just based on the environment you're in?
I think you have to be authentic, right? And I think,
okay, yeah, I agree.
When you see a lot of people where they're like, oh, they act so different in work environments than they do at home, then you start to wonder, well, where's that authenticity really lie, and who's the real person? Mm-hmm. I've had the pleasure of being able to bring family on, work events and work trips with my husband, my mom, my dad. They've all seen me in action. And
that's so cool.
I loved being able to hear afterwards and be like, I love that you're just you. I love that it's not like, oh, who was that person that showed up? And so I think it's very, very similar personality. Probably, a little more polished when you need to be, for sure. But
obviously, yeah.
Child at home either. So you just make sure that you bring both that fun, energetic, driven personality, both at work and at home.
I agree. That's the one thing in my leadership style that I've been working on is not, I've always never had a problem being myself, but it's being okay with being myself. And that's just always been my thing. Because we just talked about it, right? Like, people always were like, you weren't really supposed to be there. Like, this wasn't supposed to be your seat. And then all of a sudden you go, wait, you are supposed to be there. Like, that's just them talking to you. It's not the truth. And then when you finally realize that, you go, okay. And then everything changes. It just changes, right?
Yeah, and people can sense inauthenticity, right? They can tell being real and not. And so it's kind of a waste of time if you're going to go try and act like someone else that's not really you. You can see right on,
right.
And the truth will come out at some point. So better that you attack it head on. And here we are,
absolutely,
or not. So it is who we are.
Absolutely. So I agree with you. So I'm going to switch the subject a little bit over to technology. So how excited are you about technology right now and where the industry is going?
Oh, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Excited.
Okay. Yay.
Now, that doesn't come without a little bit of, angst, because it's a lot happening so fast. And I've talked before, especially with my team, about, there's this change curve that technology goes through. And you think of something like, an iPod then becoming an iPhone, and that whole time of technology and that engagement being in your hands took the span of 8 years. Now with AI, the most recent, if you think of a Chat GPT or a Grok, they come out and you have millions of users in a month, right? So just the adoption curve is going to happen. It's still the same. There's early adopters, there's the majority, and there's laggards. But the timeline is just shrinking so quickly to get this new technology out in the hands that if you're not an adopter, you're going to be left behind really quick. So that's the concerning part, But in terms of the potential that AI is going to bring and new technology is going to bring, it's super exciting. And I'm buckled up. I'm ready for the ride.
That's exciting. Do you think AI is a little bit bigger than the infrastructure that supports it, or do you think they're going to go hand in hand as it grows and evolves?
I think that we don't know how vast and widespread AI is going to be. And it started with, people thinking AI is just compute, or is predictive, and some predictive analytics. And now you really see that agentic piece of it. You see more autonomy happening. And now it's things like, how is AI going to impact software applications when you can just run an AI agent to do your software for you? That will change the infrastructure and the infrastructure needs, but it'll also change, just the overall usability of AI and whose hands it falls into. So it's a little bit of everything. The infrastructure is going to be the base, but everything that happens on top of it, that's still a little bit in the untapped potential world.
I agree. So if you think AI had a personality, what would it be right now? Would it be an overconfident intern or a seasoned operator?
Probably somewhere in between. I think it's like maybe, the 3-year out of college role. Your intern piece of it, you're still cutting your teeth pretty quickly and learning and failing and trying and failing, but it's very small. Like you have a small window. And the seasoned operator, they have a robust knowledge, but it's in like a very narrow subset. Where kind of in the middle is, you think of someone new, like anytime you take over a new role or you take on a new group, you're learning, right? And you're asking questions that your predecessor didn't ask before you. And so that idea of like, I'm just going to go and absorb and learn as much as I can, but you're also innovating. You're coming with new ideas. You don't feel like, hey, I just know it and I'm going to do the same thing. It's like, can AI, write a song for me? Can AI, figure out how to do this task more efficiently? Can I use AI to write an email for me? Things that, today we know the answer to all of those are yes, but a year ago, would you have even known to ask for it? And that's the stuff that it's somewhere in between there. Intern status, but we are at just the beginning of the career of where AI is going to go.
That's very interesting. Okay, I like that. That's a different perspective. I know I've been doing this for a little bit in terms, just like you, but I meant like in terms of like, I'm sure you have as well, going to lots of conferences, talking to a lot of different people about just their opinions with AI. And they vary so much. Like some people are so freaked out about how far in advance AI is. And then there's other people where just like you, like, we're like, no, we're just on the cusp of it. There's so much more to happen. And then I think it just depends on the use. Like my opinion's a lot where like it depends on the use. Like when we're looking at our customers, their infrastructure, and using AI is really, really important. But I think for personal use, it varies. I don't know if you have an opinion on like personal use and where that is.
Yeah, I think I've become more and more comfortable, but I'm also a little skeptic at times. Like I still don't have an Alexa in my house, because I'm like, oh, it's always listening. Well, your phone's always listening too. For some reason, like I couldn't get past that, like, talking to an AI, right? Talking to something like that. But I'm comfortable, now all of a sudden it's like, but I'm comfortable putting everything else, like my whole life story is probably in Grok and it can tell you everything about me. And, I use that as my main, search source now. I don't go on just Google. And even if you go on Google now, it's actually Gemini. So I think everyone is, whether you know it or not, they're using it in their personal life. Now, how you use it and how much in your daily activity is still, still more to come.
Yeah, very interesting. It's funny you mentioned Alexa. I'm like, I have Google. I think I have every technology imaginable in my house. And like you said, they're always listening. Like I'll be talking to David and we'll be talking about something. And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, he's like, oh, someone was listening. I just got an email about it or I got an ad about it. I'm like, oh boy, I know. Now it scares me a little bit more. I'm like, uh-oh, they've heard a lot of conversations.
That's the unknown. And I think that is also, though, what gives people more angst about letting AI into their lives personally and professionally is because it is really smart, right? Now, it's also it's training and it needs guardrails. And that's where it can't a little bit of its infancy and it's going to mess up. But when you get it right and you train it and operate it in a, limited space and limited functions, it can really be impressive.
Have you ever found yourself when, and we're going to get into a little bit more. I want to hear a little bit more about how you went from intern executive. I want you to talk a little bit more about your story. But, we were just talking earlier about conferences, right? And it's conference season relatively right now. Have you ever, and again, you don't have to share, but like curious, have you ever gotten yourself in a position where you shared an opinion, tech opinion that went against the grain at the conference or any conferences that you've been to?
I think against the grain, it's more, for me, it's more about an opinion is just an opinion. And if anything, I would say it's people taking things too literally. And I'm a big believer of knowledge is power, and knowledge is, there's always something more to learn. And so tend to form an opinion fairly quickly. You hear a fact and it's like, oh, that must be true. And, now I would say I'm more cognizant about, stating opinions than facts, because this is just, it's Cheryl's point of view. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just another person's opinion. And I'm a big reader. I'm a big, podcast listener, supporter. And I think that all just areas of getting difference of opinion, and then how you interpret it is ultimately something that no one else can come up with. So that's, not so much against the grain, but definitely had differing opinions than other people. And, sometimes it turns out to be right. And sometimes I learned something new, and, we all have the ability to change opinions throughout the course of your lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I'm going to ask you your quick take, and then I'll switch conversations. But how do you feel AI is affecting the job front, the hiring? What's going on in the industry now? Do you think it's affecting new hires, or I don't know how it's working for you all at Ingram, or what you're seeing across the industry?
Yeah, I do think it is, but not in the way that people think it's just going to take over everything. I don't do that. I do believe that there's a balance of human and AI interaction that's going to really be the sweet spot. What I would tell people is, thinking about their role, don't run away from AI, run towards it, because those people who can help figure out how you could use that to become more efficient, it'll give you time to go figure out, and then how do you change and evolve your role. But I think of sales, we're all in the sales world. People still work. Relationships still mean a lot, right? And if anything, I would say they're probably becoming more important than they were in the past, because that's something that gives people that human connection, and the data behind it just becomes a powerful platform to go take, your message out and make it easier and more simple to view and transact and work together with. But the people piece of it, you can't lose this, right? That will never be replaced by AI. I don't want to talk to, a screen, Reshma. I want to talk to you, right? I don't want to talk to your avatar. It's no, you need the real person. So I think
agreed.
Thinking about AI in the job market is, if there is an opportunity for the role that you play today to have AI accelerated or enhance it, lean into it, and then figure out what skills can never be replaced, and how do you go, build on that even more and let that become your specialty.
I like that. I really like that perspective, because I think everything you just said, people are scared and they think their jobs are getting replaced. But I haven't heard anybody say what you said, which is lean into it. I mean, how can you have it benefit you and what you're doing in your company where it doesn't replace you? And that's I like that perspective, because I haven't heard that yet. It's more like, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose a job. And it's more fear.
Yeah, I mean, and look, we was it just last week? Oracle, announced a big reduction in their workforce.
Yeah.
When you told that they did, it wasn't necessarily the people to people interaction roles. It's a lot of the operational, transactional, stuff that can be automated. And what I would say to any of the people who have been impacted is, now how do you use that to go create a new skill or learn something different? Or, take what and your expertise and drive it down into the mid-market and SMB space, because AI is not there yet. Right. It's not going to scale quite yet. So it just might be the timing and the type of organization that you support.
That's true. It's very true. All right. So how did you get from intern to executive? How did you even get interested in technology? How did the opportunity even come up to work at Ingram Micro? And I actually don't even think I know this. I don't think we've ever had this conversation before. I never thought about it.
I know. It's, I think like most people, My background was not in technology.
I can relate 100%.
Yeah, I was a finance major actually. And so I was working at a bar, I was working at a restaurant. I had been in, the hospitality, the restaurant industry for a little while. And I knew I needed some business experience, before I was getting ready to graduate. So I had 2 years left of school. And
in Buffalo, right?
In Buffalo, yep. And I was going to school there, at Canisius College. And a good friend of mine had just gotten an internship at Ingram Micro. And he said, hey, they're hiring more interns if this is something that you're interested in. It's like, sure. I had never, asked me, even in the interview, I look back on it and I'm like, I don't know how I got hired. Like, I was not, so many things I would go back and be like, do this differently. But I think about even the interview for the internship, it was like typing, like speed typing and like listening to a conversation and like taking notes and filling things out and accuracy. So it's a very different skill set, but I was good at computers. I was good at, listening and taking notes and a fast writer. And, I think a lot from the restaurant world too, right? You're jotting down quick orders, you're moving at a very fast pace and then going with computers. So anyway, long story short, I get this internship and it was amazing to me how much like the energy was in the building. There were sales teams. They were handing out free donuts, people coming around with t-shirts all the time. They were, you could win gift cards and, just this like true sales culture of like, oh my God, this is a lot of fun. This is a lot of energy. Fast forward, when I graduated, they were not hiring for full-time employment at that time. So I went into banking because I was in finance and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to go be a banker. And I went into banking and I was like, oh, this is not for me. Like, where's the free, the sales energy? It's like you learned a checking account, and this isn't a dig on bankers by any means, but it was a very finite portfolio of things that you learned to sell. And that was it. And I was like, well, once I knew all of that, then what? What more are you learning? And so I turned and went, right back to Ingram about 2 years after that and went right back into sales. And I have never even looked back. And I'll tell you, it has been such a blessing. But to me, it was about the speed of learning. Like I felt like every day when I went in, there was something new to learn. There was someone new to meet. It was really just that idea of like, oh, you have this vast network of people and technology to go lean into, and the sky's the limit. You can keep on going and growing, and I've loved it ever since. So sales, vendor management, leading IBM, and that was my first people management role, and then from there it just kept expanding. And I still have IBM. They keep telling they're like first, and I keep it. It's continued on, and now leading the vendor organization and services organization for Ingram for the U.S. So it's been a quick journey, but a lot of fun.
I have to put in a comment. So like a funny part was I remember, again, we've been partners with Ingram Micro for 20 plus years since my parents have been working right in the business. And the funniest part was when we established our IBM partnership. So back in like 2011, 12, 13. And I remember that one guy, I forget his name now, but we were on a call and then all of a sudden he goes, cake. And like, cause someone was walking around with cake at the Ingram Micro office, right? And I just started laughing cause he was so excited. Cause he just said that's your team. That's your culture. That's that atmosphere at Ingram Micro, right? Whether you're an IBM or whatever the team was. But I thought that was the funniest.
Yeah, it is true.
Funny.
Like when you started Ingram, I hope you got, a belt that can adjust a little bit because the amount of free food and, we're here in Buffalo, so it's not salads, right? You're getting nuts, pizza, wings, happy hours with beer afterwards. And it's definitely a very food centric, but it's a lot of fun and great people.
Yeah, it is funny. And then I can also relate just in terms of, I don't know if I've ever shared with you, but like similar. Like I was going into the medical field and then I completely did a 180 as well and went in a different direction and went into the business because my mom was like, hey, there's an opportunity to come here, to grow, to do the same thing. You're in an environment where you're constantly learning new technologies. You're meeting new people. You're establishing relationships in a completely different way. And she said, I think you could actually do it. And I went, me? And I just never thought that I could do it. And like they saw something in me and like that feeling, right? Like you were talking about that feeling where you're like, where you didn't need to be and you knew where you needed to be. So
yeah. And that's and it's not, I know you have to have the right personality and like energy for
True.
But to me, like these conversations are never hard, right? They're just like fun. I love, because again, like I love hearing about people's journeys and learning something different. And, next time I see you, I'm going to take my blood pressure and we'll see if you get it right.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I think I will forget, but ask me to do CPR. I gotcha. That I remember very well. That's so funny. So managing a lot of people, over like hundreds of people, what's the hardest part of leading people at that scale, right? Because you started with the IBM team and then you just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. What's the hardest part for you?
The hardest part for me personally is I really do love working with people. And when I had IBM, it was a team of maybe 30 people or so.
Okay.
I felt like I really got to know everyone, on the team. I knew their stories, their family, what drives them, what motivates them. Continues to grow and change and levels and layers come in. It's really hard to get to know all people at that level. And so I think the hardest part for me is like, I just don't get to know everyone's story, and you get to know themes and you get to know, but there's just never enough time to sit and spend, connect with everyone in your organization. And so, one of the things that I've done and continue to do that helps me personally stay connected and hopefully give people like a little bit more, of that personal time is I do a lot of roundtables. So I'll do coffee and bring in coffee and maybe have, sessions so that people can choose from both here or when I go to visit a different office, different location. And it's just open time. They're about an hour. I have no agenda. There's no questions that I have that I want to get to them. It's just, what do you want to know? What do you want to hear? What's top of mind? What can I do to help? And, to know people and make sure that they introduce themselves. And it's fun because you see so many different faces. And I did one out in Irvine a couple months ago. And, there was a really nice woman that had just started at Ingram. I think she was there maybe 2 months. And she came in and said, can I come back again to the later session? Because she wanted to learn and know more. But I remember her. I remember her name and I get to spend some time. And so when I see it come up, I can be like, oh, hi, how are you? Yeah. And you get that personality piece back into it. And that I do love. But it's hard when you see someone and that they know you, but you don't know their name. And so I have to do it. Hi, how are you? Very general.
I get it. I know I try to do the same thing. Like part of that journey of, we talked about it earlier, being okay with being a leader, right? Being okay being in your position and what you're doing and what you're meant to be, and that's what you're here to do. It's the same thing that I try to encourage with the team as well. And then we try to do, my team is smaller, but again, in the different companies that I'm running, I mean, the team is big too, but like I try to do the same thing. I encourage those conversations and that hangout, like as much as you can, just so you can bond, because that's really important, right? Because everybody wants to be heard. But I always encourage, like, I always like when people, like what you just said, the one lady who just started at Ingram, and then it's the same thing. Like when I go to like our Jersey office, some of the women just like come up to me and they'll just start talking to me, and I just go, okay. It's like one of those days where I know I get nothing done, and I'm just gonna just keep the laptop shut. I'm just gonna talk to people because they like that, but it's important. I genuinely like it too, so it doesn't bother me. But I feel like that's part of being a leader and part of the job, and I embrace it.
Yeah, and it's hard because it is time, right? Like you said, okay, I'm not going to get the email done today. And so it's probably going to create more work for you after hours or, weekend. And that's the weight, right, that leaders have to play, but they don't always see. But the priority, how you manage your time, you got to put the people first because they're the ones that hear it, do it, and see a lot of it. And without that full circle communication loop, we're flying blind, at the helm. It's like, we need that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. So, I'm gonna ask your thoughts on infrastructure and AI and reality, and I'm gonna even tap your brain a little bit on the IBM perspective. But so everyone wants to talk about AI models, but how much of the success actually comes down to, and this might be technical, so you direct it however you want to direct it, so it's fine with me. But how much of the success actually comes down to the unsexy layers like data pipeline and storage platforms like Storage Fusion? Because we were talking about that evolving, right, with AI. I didn't know if you have any thoughts on that and IBM related or other brands or technology.
For me, so I will, always admit I'm not a technologist. I'm just in technology, right? But a lot of it really comes down to the data, because the data is the new, you've heard that saying, right? Data is the new currency. It's just the way that powers all AI. And it's about how you get data to work together, then to create more and more, unique layers within an AI model. So there is a lot, and I think IBM in particular, they're the founders of AI, right? We still say like they are like father AI. And
I love that. Okay.
Really cool to know that they were at the forefront of it. But even they're, I think, trying to say, now, how do I make it practical? How do I make it scalable? How do I bring it outside of just the enterprise? And that's where the channel partners play such a key role in the ecosystem as well, because it takes a lot of work to get the data cleaned and usable and in a format that is digestible, that you can even run an IBM application, and get the most out of it. And so I think the role that the partners play today is going to continue to grow even more and more in importance in making a lot of AI technology usable. You could have something really cool, but if you don't know how to deploy it, or you don't know what services are going to be needed in that skill set to make it usable and implement it, it's just a really cool software piece, right? It doesn't actually do, or you're not going to get the most value out of it than when you can lean into the partner community to help you really go maximize its usage.
And that's funny because like one of my next questions was about that in terms of that triangle of, you have IBM, you have Ingram, for example, IBM, Ingram, and Frontier. And I think you already answered it, but curious if you have another perspective on it in terms of who owns what in making AI real for the customers, in terms of that triangle and the partnership of everything that you were just discussing.
Yeah.
Do you think somebody does what and what, or do you think it's a collaboration?
I think it has to be a collaboration.
Okay.
Really do. Because if you think of, to me, the vendors, whether they're an ISP or an OEM or hardware, software, they're innovating. They're the IP behind the software applications. Hardware, software, cloud, doesn't matter, right? They're the innovators. And where I think the role of a lot of the vendors is in R&D, right? You want IBM as an IBM partner. You want them to go focus on how they find and develop the next big thing to make your services even more valuable. Your role as a service provider is to really be that connective tissue with the end users. It's understanding their digital journey. It's making sure that you have a good idea of what success looks like, what outcomes they're trying to drive, and then taking that back. And Ingram, we're like the glue between all of the OEMs and all of the partners and building those solutions. So I think of some of the value add is around, it could be financial solutions and making sure that, we help that full end-to-end enterprise lifecycle happen in a financially feasible way. It could be in pre-sales, technical support, leading in our consultants to make sure that you've got the right technology paired with the right solutions to drive the outcomes that are important. or it could be just in relationship management, because who knows every sales rep for every vendor in your territory that you need to work with, right? We can be the matchmaker and really bringing the relationships together. So I think it's got to be all three. The other piece is there's not one solution for an end user that is only one single vendor. There's always multi-vendor that comes into play, and distribution does a really good job. Ingram does a really good job of helping identify what are those other OEMs that you need to be thinking of and bringing into your solution to make it happen, to make it workable, and what services can you layer on top to make it, a profitable solution for everyone.
I agree. Where do you think companies mess up on their AI strategy? And we could leave it on the vendor side or even on partners or end users, right? Whatever you end up hearing and seeing.
Ooh, I think today, because it's moving so fast, I think that it's the companies that are trying to solve too far out in the future. And if they say like in 3 years, I'd argue no one knows what their company is going to look like in the next 3 years, because something is going to happen that's going to blow your view completely to the side, right? Or it'll blow it up. Yeah. Something that you could have just spent a ton of money on all of a sudden now becomes irrelevant pretty quickly down the road. So I think that, the AI journey is, I would just say the timeline is the thing that people are messing up the most, because they're trying to figure out what success looks like in 24 months. And in reality, I would say they should be thinking about probably 6 to 12 months, and what do you do to get baby steps? And then I would say it's making your digital transformation journey or your AI transformation journey very microservice centric, meaning like it's not one long, program that you need to go right. It's not one long journey that's like make or break. It's chunk, tiny pieces, little deployments, iterations, and things that can be pivoted fairly quickly if it doesn't work, or if something better comes along and some innovation comes out, and now all of a sudden you don't waste a ton of money. You can use what you have to build against it and go faster and faster and faster.
And I totally agree with that. And that's something similar that we're doing even at Frontier, because I'm like, we got to use AI to solve some of the immediate needs, but like we can't go too far out, because so many things are going to change, or the requirements are going to change, or the team will get bigger, or we need to scale it, and then we don't want to spend too much money on that infrastructure, right, David? I mean, we go through that all the time.
No, the other piece is today, and I'm sure you're starting to see it now, is with the memory shortage. That is just creating even more disruption in terms of timing and the ability to get technology in the hands of the end user. And that timeline is so volatile and the pricing can be so volatile that it makes it much more difficult to be too forward thinking. So it's the act now, ingest now, focus in short term and see and be ready to pivot and move as new technology comes out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then, and that's why it's so important we just had a conversation about this with somebody else last week, and he was saying the same exact thing that you said, Cheryl. It was like, all right, the hardware is going to be a challenge. So what can you do to get ready and become a little bit more ready and aware as a customer so that you're not challenged with that? How can you use some of the different technologies, like the what is it, like the Fusion or watsonx or any of these different tools on the software side to help get ahead, so you're mitigating some of those challenges that are coming up?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what separates companies that get AI from those who are just experimenting, in your opinion? What do you think?
I think the ones who lean in faster are just going to have a bit of an edge. And, when I think on that adoption life cycle and that adoption curve, and because things are shrinking so fast, I'll pick on like my mom as an example. She has a really cool car. She got this brand new BMW, something or other. And so excited about it, right? And I'm like, oh, Mom, like it's got all these gadgets, right? And it's got things like turbos, like sport mode, and it's got hydraulics built in where it can move up and down based on aerodynamics of the car. It's
what? That's
right?
Cool.
And so I'm like, oh, like you've had it for a month now. Like, what's your favorite, like piece of the car? Like, what do you love most about it? She goes, oh, it's so cool. I can kick my foot underneath the trunk and it opens without me having to touch a button.
I love that. That's
like,
funny.
Well, now that's like little, but that's where, people who lean in, right? You think of the technologists, it would be like a gut punch if they knew they spent all of this time innovating, this.
I know.
Like her favorite function is, the kickstart, or the push start button. So it's really kind of funny, but I kind of correlate that to early adopters with AI, right? It's the same thing. It's the ones
I like that.
Lean in, to features and functionality and embracing, the what if and the potential. They're going to get more value for their investment. They're going to get more long-term success with the vehicle. They're going to get more long-term success with AI that they're investing in. And the sooner that you can enable it, the more time that you have to reap the benefit of it. So, and I think especially because we find, a lot of AI, the data truly is power. And so the more you use it, the smarter it is. Yep. The first query that you put in Netflix, when you log in, it's not telling you like the movies that you want to see. A lot of it, more than half of it is probably irrelevant. But after a week, now all of a sudden it's starting to give you more and more information on what you like. And now you've been a user for 2 years. It knows you like the back of your hand. It can tell just by what you're scrolling through. You're in a good mood. You're in a bad mood. You want a romance. You want a drama. And now those are the ones that start popping up saying, I think that you'd really enjoy this. And now it really knows you. And so I think the early adopters, they're going to get more bang for their buck in the long run. And they'll start to be able to monetize it a lot faster than the companies that are just kind of dipping their toe and not really ready to jump. They'll get there eventually, but do you have eventually, or do you have eventually to stay relevant, or is it something that's going to leave you high and dry?
Agreed. And I think that's an interesting take because, you're naming some of the early adopters of technology. I know you mentioned your mom in the car example, BMW or Netflix, but they have been the early adopters. And so some would say that, is it because they had more money or more budget, or were they leaning into it, right? And I think that's a conversation that you're just trying to say, where just lean into it and then you can use AI. And this is what I'm thinking just from the budget. Like your budget could be very small to a very big like enterprise budget like Netflix, right? Or BMW, for example. But if you're leaning into it, you can get ahead of the curve, I think is what I gathered from what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to, when we talked about using AI in your personal or your professional life. Like I bet most users of Netflix don't think of themselves as AI users. They just think of themselves as, I'm a movie watcher. And that's where people, I think, have to keep getting comfortable with AI is in everything that you're using, whether you know it or not. It's just happening behind the scenes. It's not in your face saying, hey, this is an AI, algorithm that's running a bunch of agents in the background telling you what, based on your previous likes, what you might like now. But that's the reality of what's happening in the technology behind it.
It's so general, not general. I won't say general. It's in everything that you do. I didn't even think about it either, but you're right. How is that system learning and all that technology and AI and the power and the infrastructure and the heating and the cooling and everything that sits in the back end, just to make sure as a consumer, you're seeing it one way and then all the technology on the back end. But as a consumer, we forget. And then when we talk about the technology, I go, oh, right.
Yeah.
It does happen. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheryl, what do you think about certifications versus relationships? Which actually is driving the industry now? Because you see on LinkedIn and everybody's talking, I got this AI certification. Is that really helping them? Or what do you think?
Yeah, it's always tough. And I think it's very vendor dependent, honestly.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll get a certification and it's like 15 minutes, right? And you kind of know, like, all right, did I really learn something, right? Where there's other technical certifications in particular where they have to study for hours, right? It could be 80 hours worth of thing plus, a 4-hour in-person, test. And you have that piece of it that does give you not only a level of knowledge and expertise, but it gives you that confidence, right? Or your customer confidence that they know you've got that level of experience and quality, in your organization to be able to deliver on. So I do think that there's a value, but with some more than others. Some of them I just think that it's like want to make sure that people are checking the box and, they say like, yep, I got it. But so those ones I feel like I'm less for, like I get it. But some of the technical ones, I would put more value on, the real technical certifications than on the sales ones.
Technical ones. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's a different perspective. I was always reflecting, but I guess it's...
How do you guys look at them?
Me personally, certifications, I feel like, okay, that verifies that you know the technology, or you know the technology, you know how to work with it. But I am like one of the people that think of, it's like the school of hard knocks. Like you got to get in there, you got to understand your customer environment, you got to throw yourself in there to understand like the whole experience. What are they trying to solve? What are they trying to do? What specific technology do you need, right? Whether it's IBM, Watson X, or Storage Fusion, or to Dell, Cisco, or any of these different technologies. I feel like that's how you have to learn the conversation and learn the technology, and then you immerse yourself, because that's how I learned business. Like I had no clue what I was doing. And again, no knocks to anybody going to MBA or any of that. If you ask me now, if you asked me 20 years ago, yeah, of course I would have gone to MBA and I would have kept going on to school. Yeah. But now I feel like, no, I got it. Like I've been knocked down like 20 times or so, right? And then you figure it out and you understand how to talk to people and customers and relationships and finance and tech to a certain degree. And that's how I take it. I mean, we need it, right? Because vendors require it. It's important, but
yeah,
I feel like it's the experience and how you're going to build a solution, how you're going to demo the solution.
Yeah.
Right? Like, right?
Someone told me that they were building a data center, right? And they were going through and they're, doing everything. And, we're meeting with, and they just got some random cabling company. It was like, okay, here's like the cables and I'm just going to go with it. Well, then installers, the team that they have to actually go do deployment, they're like, none of them are color coordinated. None of them are, this different length or this different, if there's a usability, to your point, where you could have the technical certification, you could have the sales certification or why to sell a cable. But unless you're the person who's actually standing in the back of a data center, plugging it in from one to the other, you don't really know the value that a difference of cable can make until you're out there, right? Or the longevity of it just by your use of, do you need to turn it? Do you need, can you tie it easily? Can you identify it? Is it, does it last a long time? Is it waterproof, right? There's all of these different things that, unless you're actually the one doing the installing, no level of expertise of knowing the speeds and feeds are going to change that. And so you can underestimate, experience, and I think people experience is in many instances, to your point, almost more valuable than the speeds and feeds and knowing the technology side of it, because you got to out that you can't do it. So
I just think it comes in layers. Like I think the first conversation is you understand the technology, like you said, the overlay, the infrastructure enough to guide the conversation, and then you can always just go back and fix, and then plug in. But maybe that's just how I've always just approached life or conversations or business itself. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Where do you stand on Red Hat open source versus proprietary ecosystems?
Certainly for Ingram, I'd say we're not one or the other. We definitely live in a world where both have their value in different way. Think of a Red Hat or open source in particular. It allows that flexibility. It allows for speed. It gives you a level of innovation that customers need and end users are looking for. And I think there isn't that lock-in where, you don't have a single source of truth. You've got options, and there's a lot of value I think that partners can put on that. At the same time, I think a lot of the proprietary piece of it still drives a lot of value because it offers, better speed. It might have, a more quality built into it, more guardrails, more compliance, more stability. There's value that we see in both. And I think that the vendors find a way to figure out, what works for each of them. And I've seen both work and I've seen both not work.
All right. All right. These are, again, like what you've seen at Ingram or in your experience over, again, like past 20 years growing within Ingram. What's a lesson that you learned the hard way that you still carry today?
I think assumptions. I think any lesson that you learn when you assume something instead of finding the real source of truth. I feel like when I look back on mistakes, or lessons learned, a lot of times it was, I made an assumption too early in the decision-making process. Now, with that said, I don't know that I would do it differently, but I do find that I ask why more often than not. And I ask a lot of questions, but I think that people can get stuck in that analysis paralysis where you ask so many questions and you want to know every detail that you become risk and then you don't make a decision. So there's a balance there. I think that just, when you're earlier in your career, especially, sometimes you make decisions without having the experience to know, if I would just ask that, I probably could have saved myself heartburn. And I will tell you that the ones that stick with me are bad hires. I think that when I was starting in management in particular, I would make all of the hiring decisions myself. And that lasted maybe for a year and a half. And then I realized I wasn't very good at making hiring decisions by myself. And now every time that I have to make a hiring decision, they're on a panel. I'm getting other opinions. I slow down because getting quality over quantity has become more and more valuable to me when you realize, like, hey, there's a couple hires that you make and you're like, I probably jumped the gun on that one, but I was, desperate for someone, or I was,
of course,
going out on leave, and I'm like, I just got to find someone because, I don't want to leave it. And, I look back and I'm like, slow down, get a pen, bring your, my board of directors along, my people in my circle of different experiences, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences that can come in and form a better opinion. Then you make a lot better long-term decisions than short-term.
I agree. And I think that's part of just growing up in the business, figuring it out. And you have to make those mistakes. And, I even get bashful of some of the mistakes I've made. And I've shared them with David, for example. And then David's like, well, okay. Like, okay. And I went, oh, okay. No one's judging me on this. All right. Like, because you sit there and you go, obviously you learn from your mistakes, but then I sometimes feel bad and then I shame myself. And then I go, why am I shaming myself? Like, okay. It's like, and then I talk to somebody else and they're like, you're still here, right? I'm like, yeah, you're still in business, right? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I agree. And I agree on the assumption part too, because now, I'm a big stickler for, you can't assume what people are thinking. You always have to clarify, always have to ask, you always have to be on the same page, because otherwise, you can't assume, because then otherwise, what did he call, I have a sales coach, and my sales coach said something to me yesterday, something about you have to demystify, or he used some really big word yesterday, not big word, but big word that I'm forgetting. And he said that, he goes, you have to, demystify it so that because you could be thinking this and they could be thinking that, and then, right? Yeah. You're assuming. So.
Yep. Agree.
I agree. All right. So we're going to get into the fun part. Well, This has been fun, but we're going to shift the questions a little bit to get to know you a little bit more and go from there.
Okay.
So, all right, cloud or on-prem?
Hybrid.
What do you? Okay, hybrid. Oh, I like that. All right, AI hype or reality?
Reality, for sure.
Okay. One word to describe the future of infrastructure.
Complex.
Oh, wow. This is good. Okay. All right. Coffee or cocktails?
Whew. Man,
And I'm looking at you. I'm giving you a look right now, Cheryl.
I have coffee in one hand and I got cocktails in the other. I can't live without, you know? You know what? Oh man, that is a tough one. That's tough. I'll say a coffee cocktail, espresso martinis.
I like that. See, I was going to say before 12 o'clock, coffee, and then after 12 o'clock, cocktail. So for me, it'd be timing. Because, that's important. Okay, you already answered that question. All right. Slack or email or text? I'm going to throw in that. I'm going to add text in there. Like text message.
I'm going to say text.
Text. Same. I still don't understand the point of Slack. I don't understand. I'm like, can't you just text me and ask me the same question? I mean, like, poor David always gets confused because, like, I'll Teams him, email him, text him, and the poor guy asks me, he's like, which one do you want me to respond on?
Just all of them. Yeah, I mean, email's good for, like, a lot of the day-to-day stuff, but if something's important, they'll text, So I feel like that's the one, like, if you need to get a hold of me, you're going to call or text me. Or you'll call me and then
Agreed.
back.
Agreed. Like, that's what I like to do too. I'm like that. And I think I know your thoughts on this one, but early adopter or fast follower? Oh,
I'm an early adopter.
That's what I thought.
I mean, there's, like I said, Alexa will be my one, like, I'm a late bloomer there, but for most other ththings, like I'm finding out what the new technology is, and I want to try it. I want to be able to talk about it. It's just like you have a show that comes out, right, and everyone's talking about what was the one, Tiger King over
oh my God, during COVID I couldn't watch it. I felt so bad for the animals. I'm like, can't watch it. Can't.
People were talking about it. I was like, I gotta know. Like, I gotta go home and watch it. I gotta binge it. I gotta be part of that story. So I'll be an early adopter with most of it.
So, okay, I like that. So didn't he go to jail? Right? Tiger King go to jail? Okay.
I think then, like, the one girl's husband died or, like, disappeared, and they were like, did she kill him? Did he just, like, die? Did the tiger?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. He knows. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so funny. I didn't even know that. Yeah. What was the other one? Everybody loved. Do you remember the game? Was it? It was on the phone. It wasn't Heads Up, but it was House Party. Do you remember House Party? Did you play it? Oh my God, that was so much fun during COVID, and that's all we did. I remember calling Jeff Croft. Like, we all were just like calling each other.
Yeah.
It was funny, and then we'd add like 20 people to this game. I mean, I think that's like what brought down the network at one point because everybody was on House Party.
That just shows you, though, people will find a way to connect. And in an environment even like that where technology took over and Teams took over and virtual took over, people still want to connect with people outside, and the relationships are the things that carried right on through.
100%. I agree with you. Like, that's so important. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Okay.
Morning.
Got it.
Yeah,
I like to say I'm everything.
Yeah. Coffee. No, my husband would laugh because, he could stay up until midnight and then get up in the morning for work. And I'm like, oh, the kids went to bed. It's 8:30. All right. You got me for like 45 minutes and I'm going to bed. And
that's so funny.
early, I'm awake and I don't mind.
Well, I get it. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Well, I think there's a few, probably lately, I would say Celine Dion seems to be like the go-to on, there's just so much like, now I will say I will not, or nor will I ever do Celine Dion justice, but.
I dare you. I want you to.
But it'd be a fun one.
What? Little Power of Love is what David's saying.
Yeah. It's that whole like 90s genre of Celine Dion. Man, she has some good power ballads in there. So maybe there, Cher is always a good one, like Salt and Pepper. So it's Spice Girls came around with like a good Spice Girls song. So a little variety in there.
I can't believe you didn't say Backstreet Boys. See, that's what I would say. Like, I want it that way, something like that.
I'll back up sing with you on Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. We got it. So next trip, we're going. That's what we're going to sing. Sneakers or heels?
Heels. Maybe you see this?
Heels, okay.
If it'll turn.
Okay. Oh, I was like, wait, are we looking? Oh, we got her little shoes. I love it. Okay. Yes, it's very important. I just had knee surgery, so we're not wearing any heels at the current moment. So we're wearing flats or anything that I can just slip on my foot.
Yeah.
At the moment.
And
I know. I don't even know. I was telling Lindsay when we go to, and David's going to go to Blue Series next week, and I go, I'm going to be the girl with the cane, or I'm going to be the girl in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And one of the IBMers said last week, he goes, oh, don't worry. You're with Ingram. As long as you can drink, you're going to be fine.
They'll roll around, no problem.
Yeah, they're like, oh, as long as they'll pull you up to a bar, like, you're fine. Like, they'll take care of you. I'm like, okay, thanks, guys. Like,
motorized.
That was funny.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that was funny. All right. Your favorite app that you use daily?
I mean, honestly, like Messenger, like other than like your own Messenger, but I will say lately, Grok, AI is probably
Okay.
the one that I go to the most. I did bounce around a bit. We have Copilot for work. I was on Perplexity for a while, but I didn't find it was as versatile as Grok is. So I made the switch over, and I've really enjoyed it so far. I feel like it's good quality.
Oh, that's really Perplexity. That was one of the ones I think I sent over to you. No, that was not. Okay, just kidding. We did not look at. We did not. All right. Who's someone you admire outside of tech?
I will say, and it's not even to sound like corny, but my dad is seriously a fantastic role model for me. He just has a really good attitude about life. He's been battling cancer for a long time, and you would never know it if you met him. His attitude, he's super smart. He's like the person that I can go to and, bounce ideas off of or situations off of. He was in an executive role for a long time. And then obviously I have someone that I love and trust and, can confide in constantly. But, and I think of role models, it's about, can you have the right attitude? Do you have what you believe in? Do you have good morals? And, I think it takes a bit to get to know people that way and really see that side of them. So that I got lucky to witness it firsthand.
Oh, I like that. I like that answer. Our parents are some really cool people, aren't they? They are.
Sure.
All right. So, and we're getting close to the end. So thank you for being patient and hanging out with me. Yeah, good. I'm having fun too. How do you think women, and this is an interesting question, how do you think women are uniquely positioned to leverage AI right now?
I think women are very good at, and I'll say even better at men, we're good at just getting things done, right? Mm-hmm. You want something done, and I bet if you were to look to two people and you're like, I just really need to get this done this week, you're going to give it to the woman, right? Because you just know she's going to get it done. AI is going to help us get things done even faster. And I think AI is something where if women can figure out how to utilize it, both personally and professionally, it'll make that stand out even more compared to the competition and give people an edge on, what they can do in the workforce. I think even the things like, scheduling, home life balance, using AI.
I love that.
Home gives you more flexibility to, do what you need to do and spend the time that you need to at work. So I do think that they're uniquely positioned, but it's that efficiency and leaning in on efficiency is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a key word that you've been saying. And then I also wonder if women even, and again, this is like people, and you were talking about like consumers and women in general, like are they leveraging AI to help them with those things? Do they even know those tools exist? Like sometimes like I always thought I had to manually have to do it. Like I have to, and manual is always, I think, okay, but there are ways to improve it, right? To get it become more efficient. So I think there's like a balance between that. But if you think there was like a way to get women more exposed to technology, right? Because I mean, that's still a challenge nowadays. I mean, we're in a very male-dominated industry. I mean, it is what it is. It's all good. But have you figured out a way like to solve the problem in terms of like getting women more exposed to AI, to technology, to tools, to the industry itself?
No, not to solve.
I know.
Any means. What I will say, I think that people are more comfortable talking about it now, right? And talking to women and talking to children, regardless of gender, about technology and about the power that it is. And I think, when we were growing up, like technology was like a computer, that was it. You didn't talk about data centers. You didn't talk about storage. You didn't talk about compute. You didn't know it. AI is making the type of technology more and more visible to younger ages. And so I think especially as kids use it, and I think they will be using it more and more in school, then I think that creates a natural interest in technology when you are using it at a young age. And I think of, my kids are 7 and 8, and they've been using iPads and working my phone better than me by the time they were like 2, 3 years old. So I can only imagine the type of technology that they'll be using in school and in their personal life as they get a little bit older. For them being able to see their mom, and help that helps inspire them and inspires their friends to think about there's a career that you can have in technology and you don't need to be a technologist to do it.
Yeah. I know I asked you a hard question, and if I had to push it to myself, I think one of the biggest things that I would push, not even related to technology, but it's just like, how would I say it? I would say just being comfortable with you, like that you're in this room with, right? Like where you're different or you don't look like the other group, right? You're different in the group. And then just being like, it's cool. Like you're owning it. And then I feel like once you can kind of embrace like your own individuality, then none of that seems daunting. And I think that needs to be taught at a younger age, right? With women too and girls. And then it becomes a little bit easier. I don't think we don't talk about it much. I mean, I don't think it was never something that was discussed with us, right? So it was never important. It was more like the gym and being healthy and like doing those things right from a women's perspective, right? Body image may be a little too extreme, and I know I'm deviating, but my point is just being comfortable with you, right? Because once you start with you, everything else changes.
Yeah,
What I was trying to say.
And I think people, I would hope too that people learning that not all roles in technology companies are just being engineers. There are a lot of engineers that are super smart, and I give them a lot of credit. That only roles that are out there. There's everything. There's marketing, there's finance, there's digital transformation, there's operations and transportation, there's sales, there's HR, there's like everything that's still part of a technology company. And so just being interested in the industry can a lot of times be enough to get you started in a technology career, which is kind of cool.
I agree. So what's one final piece of advice you want listeners to walk away with today?
I would say, confidence to me is one where I just want people to get a little bit more confident and bold in embracing AI and embracing the power of partnership. Because I think those two can be massively powerful together. We've certainly seen it with our companies. I see it where Ingram is going in our digital future, launching a platform and using AI internally. And, at the core of what we do is about people and partnerships and giving people, that don't fear it, but really embrace it and then talk about it confidently and use that knowledge to go build on it is going to be really important. So partnerships.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. All right. And then is there, do you have like a website or anything that you would want to share where people can follow you or connect with you after?
Yeah, please.
After this?
LinkedIn is where you'll find me. You post there pretty frequently. So trying to make sure that I stay connected with people. Absolutely find me on LinkedIn.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you, Cheryl, for your time today. It was great to get your insights on leaning in, on technology, on AI, on female leadership, where Ingram is right now, and also your own leadership and how you've just developed over the past 20 years in the industry, and it's been great, and I'm honored to be able to know you. And it's so funny because you're gonna like this. It's so funny because I'll be talking to you at these different events, and they're like, "Oh, you know Cheryl?" And I go, "Yeah, I know Cheryl." You don't know Cheryl? And it's really cool because you're a down to earth female businesswoman, and I appreciate that. You never made me feel uncomfortable, or not. I don't want to say uncomfortable. It never made me feel less than. And so it's been an honor and a privilege thus far, working with you and knowing you. And I'm excited to where things are going to go.
Me too. Well, I appreciate you having me. I love being a guest, with you.
Yes.
Certainly appreciate the partnership, but more importantly, I appreciate our friendship. And I'm going to meet you at our next event. So I'm going to make it to the following one. I'll talk to our marketing team about it.
Yes, or I'll find you at IM1. I will get to one of these events very soon, so we'll have to coordinate.
Sounds good. Well, cheers to you. Thank you for
Okay, cheers.
To have a beer, and I'll kick off our 5 o'clock somewhere.
All right, sounds good. Me too. I'm going to finish it and keep going.
There we go.
Cheryl, this has been one of those conversations where you realize just how much of the industry's future is being shaped behind the scenes. In infrastructure decisions, vendor strategy, and leadership moments that never make the headlines. From AI readiness and data center reality to demystifying technology for non-technical leaders, to the way you show up confidently and empathetically in a male-dominated industry, this has been incredibly impactful. You're not just helping companies adopt technology, you're helping people understand it, trust it, and use it responsibly. And just as importantly, you're opening doors and pulling up the next generation behind you. Thank you for the leadership you bring to this industry, for the honesty you share today, and for reminding everyone listening that you don't need permission to walk into the room and own it. We're grateful you joined us, and we'll be absolutely continuing the conversation. Thank you.